shall we welcome the presence of our two first ladies with a round of applause, please. They've just joined us. Now the press briefing. It is my distinct honor and privilege to invite the President of the Republic to address the press, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I've just concluded a brief but very successful meeting with the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Ruto, and with the members of our respective delegations, and I'm here to tell you briefly of its outcome. I must at the outset welcome warmly once again President Ruto and members of his delegation to Ghana and to Jubilee House, the seat of our nation's presidency. We thank him for graciously making this visit to Ghana and honoring us with his presence. The purpose of this visit by the Kenyan president is to reaffirm the ties of cooperation and the bonds of friendship that our two countries attach to our relations with each other, especially at this time of great turbulence in global and continental spheres. Those relations were forged in colonial times in the common struggle of our two peoples to free ourselves from the yoke of colonialism and imperialism and create the conditions for lives of dignity and freedom for ourselves. In each succeeding generation, we rededicated ourselves to strengthening the ideals and values that animated that struggle. Ghana and Kenya established diplomatic relations shortly after Kenya gained her independence in 1963 and have been active participants in regional and international fora, collaborating on issues of mutual interest such as peacekeeping, regional integration, and sustainable development. Trade and economic ties between our two nations have been growing steadily over the years, with cultural exchanges fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation of each other. We've supported each other on various international platforms, including within the United Nations, the African Union, and the Commonwealth, advocating for common positions on issues such as peace and security, climate change, and sustainable development. Overall, these relations have been characterized by mutual respect, cooperation, and a shared commitment to advancing the interests of our respective nations and the African continent as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, our deliberations centered on driving investment opportunities, domestic and foreign, into our two countries, and touched on the need for enhanced cooperation and partnership in our development efforts. I also used the opportunity of my talks with the President to express the appreciation of the Ghanaian people and their government to the government and people of Kenya for the support we received in our bid to host the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. The importance of the AFCFTA should not be lost on anyone, as its successful operation has the potential to transform the economic circumstances of the continent. Just as the first leaders of our two nations, Kwame Nkrumah and Jomo Kenyatta, were united by their common determination to free our peoples from foreign domination and racist exploitation, so we are united in our determination to win the battle for rapid economic development by helping to intensify the value-adding industrial transformation of our economies, anchored on the things we make and grow. It is this transformation that will give us the best opportunity to derive maximum benefit from our abundant natural resources and from our participation in the AFCFTA and help bring prosperity and progress to our peoples. We acknowledge the significant strides made in our bilateral relations, particularly with the agreement on visa waivers for all categories of passports, and further agree to work assiduously to promote trade and investments, reiterating the shared determination to enhance economic cooperation and explore new avenues for trade cooperation and expansion within the framework of the AFCFTA. Indeed, the participation of Ghana, Kenya, and 6 other countries in the Guided Trade Initiative of the AFCFTA will stimulate intra-African trade, amplify our competitive advantage, and solidify our status within the global market. The GTI has enabled Ghana, for instance, to make significant inroads into the East African market, notably into Kenya and Tanzania. Over 700 AFCFTA certified products from Ghana, such as cosmetics, processed foods, beverages, coconut oil, shea butter, and garments, have been targeted at the AFCFTA market under the Guided Trade Initiative. We've also explored in greater detail possibilities of cooperation between Ghana and Kenya for the mutual benefit of our two peoples. The discussions in the areas of education, trade and industry, agriculture, defense cooperation, immigration, environment, science and technology, petroleum and hydrocarbon resources, tourism and security were held in an atmosphere of brotherly cordiality and fruitful exchanges. We also deliberated on several memoranda of understanding on various areas of cooperation between Ghana and Kenya, of which 2, namely the MOU on Binational Commission, the MOU on cooperation between the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Affairs and the Kenya School of Governance, have already been signed. The MOU between the Association of Ghana Industries and the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, the MOU between the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the MOU between the Ghana Investment Promotion Center and the Kenya Investment Authority are to be signed later today at the Business Forum. We express the hope that the implementation of these MOUs would invigorate and spearhead cooperation in various sectors between our two countries. On matters affecting the continent and on global issues, we also agree that current circumstances demonstrate the urgent need to put back on the global agenda the demand for the reform of the United Nations, especially the composition and structure of the Security Council, on the basis of the African Common Position on UN reform, as enunciated in the Ezulwini Consensus. We also reiterated our common call for urgent rapid reform of the international monetary system to facilitate equity and fairness in the operation of the system, to enable African countries gain easier access to capital to finance their development. We also stress on the need for Africa to take steps to address this issue on the principle of God helps those who help themselves, by calling for African countries to invest 1/3 of their sovereign reserves in African multilateral institutions such as the African Development Bank and the African Export and Import Bank, Afro-Exim Bank, in order to strengthen their balance sheets to help them mobilize more resources to finance Africa's development. This will be a better use of our resources than to allow them to lie passively in foreign banks, attracting negative interest rates, which is the present situation. This repeats the call made by Ghana at the last AU summit in Addis Ababa on 18th February 2024, which Kenya wholeheartedly supported. On the vexed matter of climate change, we stated our determination to help realize the global commitment of halving emissions by 2030 and attaining neutrality by 2050. We, however, believe that a balance must be struck and maintained between social, economic, and environmental imperatives so as not to jeopardize Africa's prospects for development. We also call on the developed nations of the world, responsible for 76% of carbon emissions, as against Africa's 4%, to honor their commitments to the developing countries of the world to assist in the fight against climate change, as agreed in both COP21 in Paris and COP26 in Glasgow. We reaffirmed our strong support for the Nairobi Declaration that emanated from the 2023 Africa Climate Summit, which elaborated Africa's perspective on the green transition. Towards the realization of the 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we touched on the need to promote a more equitable world by accelerating, even at this critical juncture, the processes relating to the accomplishment of the 17 goals. I noted the long-standing and excellent tradition of cooperation between Ghana and Kenya in various international fora, including the United Nations and the Commonwealth, and expressed the desire for such cooperation to continue. I thus saw the support of President Ruto for the candidature of Ghana's dynamic Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, the Honorable Shirley Ayoko Botchwey, for the position of Secretary General of the Commonwealth at the forthcoming election for the position, to be held during the 2024 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting Shogun in Samoa later this year in October. I indicated to President Ruto that we in Ghana continue to reinforce our commitments in international peace and security, especially in helping to end the scourge of terrorism and violent extremism on the continent. We reject wholeheartedly the recent trend of coups d'etats and unconstitutional changes in Ghana that are threatening to derail democratic gains on the continent, especially in West Africa. It is our firm belief that stable democracies can help unleash the energies of the African people to inspire the transformation of the continent, and we are thus prepared to work with Kenya to advance the cause of democracy in Africa and around the world. I wish to reassure President Ruto that Ghana will continue to collaborate with Kenya to find solutions to challenges such as the eradication of widespread poverty, elimination of irregular migration, insecurity and human rights violations, terrorism and violent extremism, human and drug trafficking, piracy, as well as climate change and its attendant negative impact on the environment and livelihoods. Mr. President, Ghana is determined to deepen her democratic governance, strengthen her institutions of accountability, and put her economy on a strong platform for rapid development. The vision remains that of a Ghana beyond aid, a self-reliant democratic Ghana that has freed herself from a mindset of dependence, aid, charity, and handouts, and is determined to make intelligent, disciplined use of her considerable resources as the basis for her growth and prosperity. In conclusion, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to President Ruto for honoring us with his visit to Ghana. Your presence, Mr. President, has deepened the bonds of friendship between our two nations and set the stage for even closer cooperation in the years ahead. As we look to the future, let us seize the opportunities that lie before us and continue to work hand in hand for the prosperity and well-being of our people. Ghana stands ready to strengthen her partnership with Kenya in pursuit of our shared aspirations for a stronger Africa and a fairer world. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I thank you very much for your attention.
A round of applause. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Mr. President. May I now respectfully invite the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, for his remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, my dear brother, President Nana Akufo-Addo, I take this opportunity to express my great appreciation for extending your invitation for me to undertake this state visit to Ghana. Let me also thank you most sincerely for the warm reception accorded to me and my delegation in this beautiful city of Accra and this great nation. Ghana and Kenya have strong and historic ties back to pre-independence period when our founding fathers fought for freedom against colonial rule so that our two nations could determine their own destiny. As I told you earlier, Mr. President, Ghana's independence was a great inspiration to many countries, including Kenya. And it is the reason why our founding fathers had common focus on liberating our two countries and giving the chance to our people to determine their destiny. Before this state visit, our respective delegations have discussed the elevation of our dedicated mechanism for the conduct of our bilateral relations from a joint commission for cooperation to a binational commission. Mr. President, that will give Kenya and Ghana an opportunity to elevate our interaction, our collaboration, and to expand the scope of what we can do together as nations and as our two peoples. During my discussions with President Nana Akufo-Addo, we have noted this development as a significant milestone in the evolution of our diplomatic ties, which stand on a warm and cordial, dynamic and impactful historic collaboration. We've also agreed that the inaugural session of the Binational Commission will provide us with an opportunity to reaffirm our friendship, deepen our bilateral ties, and strengthen the noble cause of African economic integration as exposed by our Africa Union Agenda 2063. Kenya and Ghana have enjoyed long-standing cordial relations since the 60s. This was preceded by pre-independence solidarity between our two leaders, who were among the conveners of Pan-African conferences. The historic bonds of friendship between our two countries run deep. We are bound together by our shared commitment to Pan-African unity and a common vision for a united and prosperous Africa. It is appropriate that our two nations, which have long played strong roles in fostering Pan-African unity, also make similar contribution to the development of Pan-African trade integration. It is also imperative that we continue to strengthen our relations, enhance our solidarity, expand cooperation and deepen mutual understanding to unite and deliver inclusive economic growth for the peoples of our nations and for our continent. The Pan-African independent movement inspired many African countries that followed in Ghana's independence. Once again, in its capacity as the home of African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Ghana is a leading force in economic integration and development of 55 countries within 8 regions, economic communities in our continent. I thank you, Mr. President, for spearheading this development, for your support to the ACFTA Secretariat, and for your support to the Secretary General, and for Ghana's hosting of the Secretariat on behalf of our continent. Your Excellency, still on the subject of integration, and especially in accelerating the free movement of people within our continent, I welcome your recent announcement of your commitment to remove entry visa requirement for all Africans by December this year. This commitment aligns with one of the goals of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to create a single market in the continent to drive economic growth, grow and create more jobs, and eradicate poverty. President Akufo-Addo that in similar vein, Kenya recently removed visa requirements for visitors from all countries with effect from January 1st this year. This underscores Kenya's